All right. Well, SmithieD, on behalf of
Go
Good as
for it.
Dumb, thank you. That is our community name, by the way. Thank you so much for taking some time to meet with us. I just wanted to take a second and tell you just a little bit about our community.
Go for it, man.
And then we got some questions. So we've been around since January, kind of. It all started because we had a group of guys in a guild called Heroes and Villains, and we wanted to do heroic tank. And about half the guild was underpowered and led to a merge. And we ended up being able to conquer the raid, but we took care of the leftovers. And one thing led to another, and now we've got 4 guilds, and the whole, I guess, mantra of the community is we want to enjoy all that the game offers without getting too hardcore. And so casual and committed is kind of what the words that we're married to here. So that's kind of where we're coming from here. But we're really grateful to have you on the server, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite, man. I'm looking forward to the questions and just chilling with you guys for a bit.
Yeah, right on. One of the things that I'm particularly looking forward to is one thing I love about your videos is you share the same amount of excitement that we do for this game. And I think you'll find when you hear some of these questions that we share that passion too, man. So I'll take it away here. First question. This comes from actually, I wish he could be here. He's busy. He's actually also from England as well, living in Scotland. His name is Lawsy. And he wants to know if you could just tell us a little bit about your history with Galaxy of Heroes. When did you start playing? How long, or how did you end up being so prominent on YouTube, etc.?
Yeah, so it all started literally, I believe it was January 2016. I used to play Star Wars Force Collection, and I didn't even know this game really existed. Like, I seen that the EA show, so I seen it at EA Access that it was advertised, and I was thinking, is this going to be like Force Collection? So I didn't even know it actually come out in November, December time, and then it was probably New Year's Day. I was sitting there, and I seen it. I was like, no way, this game's available. I got to download this, and then from then, I've played it every single day. I've never missed like the refreshes, always log in for it, always do my arena battles, probably do about 10 per day, so I can just try out new and different things. And then I believe it was around about April, I started up my YouTube channel. And the funny thing it was, I became a guild leader. So it was used for kind of like promotional purposes for the guild and to try and recruit more players. Then it just one thing left to another. I started then uploading like Galactic War or how to kind of like mod. And then from there, it was pretty much where we are today. It was my How to Mod series that started the flow. And then I just got more and more into it to the point nearly where I'm uploading every single day.
Right on, man. I think that sounds a lot like me when I became a guild leader too. And that's when the game really took off for me and when I started getting way more interested in it.
Yeah, definitely. It was just recruiting. I used to love going out there making promo pictures, making promo videos to recruit. And that's how the YouTube channel started. But I didn't really put like an everyday kind of time and effort into it until around about August. So they were just kind of like itsy bitsy videos here and there of Galactic War. They were probably really poor quality. I even did a video at one point of how to get your challenges and how to get your 600. And it was just really for my guild. So they were the kind of videos I started off with, and they didn't really have any production in them, no editing. It was literally loads of mistakes as you go along and talking throughout it, and there was no editing whatsoever involved in it. It was completely live, and then I would have probably my girlfriend walk in or my kid, and that would be completely ruin the last half an hour of talking because I couldn't edit it. I didn't know how to do anything. So it was then redoing the whole raid again to do the whole video. Oh, those are the days.
So were you before this, you weren't doing much with YouTube at all? This is what got you into YouTube?
Yeah, I used to watch Tiny Grimes and Guerrilla Games, and then higher than them in the content wise. I enjoyed watching their videos, so I used to always watch them. And then as Guerrilla Games kind of disappeared, he stopped doing it, or he stopped enjoying it and stopped playing the game. And it's the same kind of like Tiny Grimes. And then I believe at the time I didn't have any YouTube to watch, so I was like, you know what, there's definitely kind of like a gap here where I can make some videos, and one thing left to another where I just then wanted to do it kind of like full time.
Right on, man. Well, it's really taken off, and we love what you do. Speaking of, you mentioned arena. You do about 10 a day. I think a lot of us do too. And I think we'd like to know, Cypher in particular would like to know what you run in Arena.
I currently run a Zeta Maul. I don't like Zeta Maul. I think it's the most boringest kind of character to run, but it feels like you have to run it. It's either that or run Rex lead, and even Rex, it still has its issues. It's not that great on the defense. Like and attacking more, they're so powered, and there's so much kind of roll of a dice within that team that where it comes to the point there, the game can always play out differently. You could have a Zeta Maul and he could be overpowered, but you could have one or two bad kind of like moves where he doesn't dodge or he dodges too much and it can completely mess things up. But how the arena's gone at the moment, it's just pretty much Zeta Maul's. Well, my shard is there's no diversity there. It's either Zeta Maul or Rex. I tried to go with General Kenobi and I tried to kind of mix it up and it just didn't work. And I wanted a General Kenobi lead, followed with like the old days of the Zeta Barris, and then build a Nihilus team with Sharut and Baze, kind of like around that, but it just doesn't work. And it doesn't really hold defensively. It's okay on the attack because it's unkillable, but Nihilus completely changed the Maul. And I had Maul before Nihilus was even out. I Zeta'd Maul and I had him, and I was running him against the kind of like the Zeta Vaders that were currently in the arena. And I was just like going at it, still staying in top 5, still always making my arena payout. But when everyone else has the same, it kind of gets boring that you're kind of facing the same teams facing it. So I'm looking forward to a rework. But my arena team, back to the question, is I'm currently running a Zeta Maul. I've got Sharut and Baze. I've got Nihilus, and the last one is a Zeta Kylo Ren. But I've only just put Sharut and Baze in there. I was using Savage, a Zeta Savage, but he's not really that good. And because he's currently broken on the defense, that he's not kind of doing his special at the 50%, and I believe it's like the 25%, it kind of renders him quite useless. I want to move personally away from Sith, but there just isn't much of an option to kind of change up things currently like it was if we were talking a month ago, where everyone was running different teams. You'd have your Zeta Vaders, you'd have Rex leads, then you'd have like your Rebels, but it just seems to be that everybody and everyone is going for the Zeta Maul. And the ones that aren't going for it are struggling in the arena. You're going to have some real good mods to kind of compensate for what Maul brings to the table.
Yeah, that's a good point. Where I think a lot of us are hoping, especially myself and my community, will laugh that I'm prophesying of a Jedi meta coming, and I'm hoping that there's more diversity soon.
Definitely, I would love to see it.
I'm sticking to my Zeta Qui-Gon Jinn for now myself. So,
really good Zeta, even on defense. He's pretty much, he tricks the AI, especially on attack, especially against these Maul teams, because they kind of do all their AoEs. And if you've got little Yoda running there with his tenacity and foresight, bam, it's such a good team.
Yeah, it works. But like you said, you struggle and you fall pretty hard at night too. So, but that brings up Cypher's second question here. What would you say your least favorite part of the game is, and your favorite part of the game?
My favorite would have to probably be Arena. So I kind of like anything that's where I get to use my squads. I'm the kind of guy that likes the MMO side of the game, and that's how I treat and look at this game, as a big MMO. And I don't like the whole skipping and some of the content that comes out where it lasts for, say, 5-10 minutes. I'd rather go into the game and not feel that I have to kind of part with my wallet to have more time spent in the game. And I would like a game mode to come in where it's literally I'm able to play as much as I feel like I want to play, and not to the point where I'm limited to play unless I start spending crystals to play a little bit more. I'm not really a fan of those games, but my probably least favorite thing of the game is there's no like Jedi Luke currently in the game. He's my favorite character in the Star Wars universe. And I would love to have him in my team where I could have him, and that would be my least favorite. I don't think there's hugely bad things. I understand that it's still a premium title with paid content, so characters will go into hard modes. Unfortunately, the way the biscuit breaks kind of thing, it's something that's what they're going to do. You just got to either go with it, or not. So I did end up purchasing before some Baze shards because it's the quicker way than spending the whole year kind of getting that one character. But that would probably be the only character that currently that I would actually ever put some cash in. I'd normally go for gear when I have that opportunity, but he would be the only character that I'd probably advise anyone that if you want him, got the summoners, even if it's every couple of months, put some in. get your bays and you're done kind of thing, because he's pretty much got everything you need in that team.
Right on. Now, our audio and tech guy who's recording the session has a really important question for you. His name is Guard. He would like to know when the Coruscant Underworld Police meta is going to arrive.
When they, I can imagine that when they add more Coruscant Police, maybe you have an army of them all stunning with 100% stun, but probably never. It probably never happen. It's probably just one of them generic characters that will always sit in the game and always be there just for the purpose of a kind of like spot filler. If they ever did a rework, then Sergeant or Colonel, Underworld Police, that's going to come into it, that's a named character that makes them relevant, or some synergy. But as it currently is, I can't really see anything without any new characters added to that faction.
Well, sorry, Guard. There you have it. All right. Now, moving on to a little bit of the future of the game, I think some of the videos that you've put out recently that really grabbed my attention is the speculation on these May and June tunes. I'm with you on Jedi Luke. This new gameplay mode sounds awesome as well. I'd like to know a little bit more about what that could potentially be. I know you released a video on it, but would you mind going into that a little bit more and telling us what your thoughts are and what could be coming soon?
Yeah, so what we currently already know, there's been issues with the tournaments, and from a player point of view, the tournaments had like cheaters in them. I don't know how much confirmed or what ever been said on the other side, but and then it has been something that the community has brought up many times, and it could stem with the game actually being offline game modes, or you play a game mode, you can, like you can in the Rancor raid or any raids, you can do your airplane mode. So I think, me personally, a good way to kind of hit two birds with one stone would be to address that current issue and bring out live PvP, because live PvP, and this would just be the game mode. We're not talking about the arena being a live PvP. They could change some aspects to it where it is live and needs a constant internet connection throughout the kind of like arena battle, but it would be a separate game mode where you can then search through the global server, take a team in, go against other teams, try out different things, or even ally versus ally if it was a offline game mode. There's endless possibilities, and the one I would want to see the most is a live PvP where I could then say, for example, challenge Warrior. Me and Warrior can just have a laugh at doing a turn-based chess match with our characters, and I think that would be amazing. That would bring so much kind of like to the game that it currently doesn't have, where you're able to just then go in, play these matches, use these characters that you've got, try different things. And the best thing about it is in the arena, because the arena, you've got the AI controlling the defense, but everyone would say that Resistance are bad on defense, but they're good on attack. But how would it be with that Resistance team? You take it against a First Order team and you have a turn-based. In my opinion, that would be amazing, because it doesn't then necessarily mean that they're a weak team, because you could use them in this game mode and you could dominate the game mode with a Resistance team, or even a First Order team where you wouldn't, as fact, dominate the entire arena because the AI is controlling your team. But if you're controlling it by a step-by-step basis, a chess match between mano a mano, I think that would be the best concept that anyone could put into a game like that.
I completely agree. I think that would be really fun, a great concept to add to the game. I think a lot of us have kind of been asking for it for a while. Do you think that they would have any rewards associated with that there'd be any kind of ranking system, or would it kind of just be a for fun pride kind of thing that you do?
Oh, I guess you could add into it. So you'd have one game mode where you could just challenge each other, and that would be the concept of it, that you search for other people and you do a chess style match with each other. But you add events to it where you then do live tournaments or
Got it.
anything.
Okay.
It's endless. It's endless. Once that game mode is into the game, the world is your oyster. You could put so many game modes into that. You could do team up boss battles. There's so much you could do with that. If that game mode and that mechanic was put into the game, you'd have so many game modes that can be put inside. Well, so many events that can be put inside that game mode. It wouldn't be what it is now. It would be so much more fun. And you don't have to have rewards to it. It doesn't have to be rewarding to be good. I think the reward would be that you get to play as much as you like with the stuff that you've got and learn new things, because you're playing against another player and you could use a team that isn't the arena meta, but the kind of like PvP side. So it gives you more options that, you know what, I want to play with this team. I want to try this team. So I'm going to farm Resistance. I didn't really have a reason before to farm them, but they're good in this game mode, and I get to just use them as much as I like against other players. And you can then boast about it. You'll be like, well, we just had a 1v1. I just beat Warrior, you know. He'll be like, I beat SmithieD, you know. And it'd just be great just to have that, and it would teach so many players how to play the game as well, because they're playing against a live person as well. So you'd know once you've done something wrong, it's kind of like it teaches you as you go along, because you're doing a turn-based, you learn from it as well, where you're not really going to learn much from going against the computer that's so random. You could see and learn why this player attacks a certain player, and I think it's so healthy for a game like this, if it wants to be one of the best games around, to have that mechanic in the game.
And yeah, that's really exciting to think about. That's really exciting. That's actually a good segue into a lot of us are free to play in this community. We have several who aren't, but Rourke wanted to know if you have any advice for those free to play players chasing versus predicting the meta. It can be a pretty frustrating process. I'm on the predicting side of it. I'm just totally sold on Jedi. I'd love for you to tell my community that I'm not crazy for thinking Jedi Medic could be a thing too, by the way. But what would your advice be for someone who's free to play trying to predict versus chase the meta?
So the meta's been Zeta, and that's pretty much what it's been about. You know, you've got two metas at the moment. You've got your Zeta meta, and you've also got your speed meta. So they kind of play into each other, like you see with Maul. You know, it's about speed and the Zeta. If there was no Zeta on that Maul, on the reworked Maul as well, and you've also got your reworked Resistance, reworked First Order, if you didn't have them Zetas on there, they wouldn't be half as good as what they are, wouldn't be viable at all. So my advice I can give to any free-to-play is get your Zetas. Start farming your Zetas. It's happening. It's not always guaranteed good. Look, like Kylo Ren, for example. Probably the best rework after Boba Fett. Boba Fett was a great rework, but Kylo Ren's just crazy. His rework, 1 man versus 5, he can do it because he's a reworked Kylo Ren. And he has to have a Zeta, of course. Kylo Ren without a Zeta, not as good. So it is all about the Zetas and who you put them into characters. Like, if you're going to go for a full Sith squad, I think at this point right now, isn't all that to go for now, because so many people have Sith. It was good at the beginning because not everybody had a Zeta Maul, so you could get away. But coming into a meta quite late, tomorrow they could flick the switch and they could bring out a character or even a rework, and it completely changes the whole aspect of the dodge meta. They could have just one character that has a unique that puts accuracy down, or accuracy up, just instantly kills that team, and that's just one character. You know, there's multiple ways. Predicting the meta, it was good to do last year because I've seen Rebels come in with movies. I would say, you know, at one point we're going to have a First Order meta, and you're going to have a Resistance meta, and they're going to be the two dominant teams. But we're talking that's like episode 8. At the minute, I think it's going to move towards Empire. There's probably so much that can happen with Empire, and you've got all the characters coming out that have been mentioned, like Saxon. Jedi, I think if they bring out or rework the current Jedi, and the problem that you've got with the current Jedi is it's so reliant on one lead, and that's the Qui-Gon Jinn Zeta lead, or even rework like another Jedi, then it could be that's meta changing, and you could have a different leadership. Then what you'd probably see that happens, that Maul will kind of like disappear. Everyone will move over. Yeah, because if you look with all these kind of like Rex teams at the moment, they're geared to face Mauls. But if you put a Zeta Vader against these, Zeta Vader would destroy a Rex team because he can't cleanse it. As long as he's getting off that kind of like dots on him straight away, you know, and he would just dominate it, you know. And so not many people use it because they don't want to change it. A lot of people do have their Zeta Vader, but they don't want to change it because all their mods are on their Maul with what the meta is, where it could be changed and you could run different teams, but everyone goes with what they think is the easiest. If Jedi Luke or Luke with a Jedi tag, then that definitely is going to change things up. But again, he could have a Rebel tag that makes Rebels more viable again. So it could go two ways, but it just depends on going to rework the Jedi, because they currently have quite a few Zeta on them as well. So you'd probably see characters like Kit Fisto maybe pull out the bag. So you'd probably want to farm him if you haven't got him. It's probably definitely going to be on the list to be reworked, because at the minute he's got nothing to him. And same as Platoon as well. Another Jedi. Guys, I think they've all got Zetas, or they're quite important. You've got Ayla as well. Ayla Secura. She hasn't got a Zeta, so she could get one. And it can go different ways. It's just hard at the moment to kind of like predict because they could just mention a rework and that could change everything.
Kind of along the same free-to-play standpoint, Tiny wanted to know, do you think it's better to go for standalone teams that are faction dependent, or to go for teams that are faction dependent, like an Empire team, a Rebel team, what have you, or to go for good, solid standalone teams like a Rex that can work in multiple factions?
Got ya. It really depends on what the current meta is. Like Rex works so well because Maul is a debuffing, critting character team. So that's why that leadership works really well. I personally go for hybrid squads. Sith, you could have all 5 of them, but there's no real benefit because all they're getting really is from their leadership. They're not getting any synergy in between each other. So Savage doesn't get any synergy with Maul, Vader doesn't get any synergy with Emperor Palpatine. So it's definitely a difficult one, but I'm more of a fan of the hybrid style where you could use, say, a leadership that affects all. I think, in my opinion, that then doesn't limit you to what you use. Completely goes on what characters you've got your kind of like in your collection. But I would always say hybrid it because you can use characters like Kylo Ren, other great characters as well. Boba Fett if you wanted to, and they do their job individually. To go for a full Sith team, it kind of lacks a lot as well. Or some teams like the Phoenix Squad, you have to have a full squad really, but they're still underwhelming in the current arena.
Right on. I think that's good advice, and I think especially I think of Kylo Ren. That's a tune that really seems to work in a lot of different teams, and he's very manageable from a free-to-play standpoint. I mean, before he was even viable, I had him at 7 stars before spending any money on the game.
Same. I had him at 7 stars. I think he was my second character that I farmed only because I watched The Force Awakens and I was like, I want Kylo Ren.
Yeah, that's like, right where I was at.
What is he? Oh, he's horrible. Yeah, he just didn't help me in the arena whatsoever at that point.
I was pretty stoked when he got his rework myself.
Remember when he got nerfed? They nerfed Kylo Ren when they nerfed Yoda. They did a whole big nerf and they nerfed Kylo Ren, like his attack. Yes. I was like, what? Why?
I'm still scratching my head over the Yoda nerf. He's Grandmaster Yoda.
It's crazy. He needs to be buffed. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. Now, another important question is what your personal favorite Ugnaught ability is.
He's only got the one.
We're just playing. We had to throw in a few to shake it up.
Yeah.
Now, I forgot. I didn't write down who wrote this. I think this might have came from, we have a couple visiting from other guilds here that are outside community. I think it might have came from one of their leaders. But they were wondering, do you think we'll ever see a tier 8 Rancor raid? Because right now, it's kind of pathetically easy, really, if you've been playing the game long enough that you can do the whole raid yourself for most people who just take the time to farm the right team. Do you think they could complicate that a bit, or do you think that they're going to leave it as is and add future raids? What do you think?
I would like to think that they would add a tier 8 because they've put so much time and effort into making the Rancor raid. Why let it go to waste? So I am a high believer that they will recycle it at one point and then put extra kind of like game modes in there, kind of like extra tiers to do, because currently it's sitting there and it's more content that they could add easily. It's not a big whole design that they have to do. It's kind of like upping the difficulty for an extra tier. So in my kind of like imagination, I wouldn't say that's a massive difficult thing to do. Of course, it'll take them time to do, but I don't think it's as difficult as creating a whole new raid that takes months and months to do. And I think it would be a shorter period if they added an extra tier. I don't know what they could put into it, but probably one of them is that the Rancor couldn't be reduced on turn meter. And I think that would be like the harder way where guilds would then have to work together as a team and not just have one guy go in and solo it.
Yeah, that's what I've seen some speculation about that on Reddit as well. That if you did improve on it, you just take the turn meter reduction out, and all of a sudden those Zader teams, those Jin teams, those Tebow teams can't have as much success. All right, the next question we have is in relation to the Phoenix squad. This was asked by Just Like Christmas, who's one of our guild leaders for Liquid Schwartz, who actually just completed their first heroic tank raid this weekend.
Oh, congrats, man.
Pretty excited about. But he would like to know, which tunes do you think are worth investing in on the Phoenix squad, and where do you think they'd fit in a non-Phoenix squad set?
I'd probably say Sabine. He's a good character, but it depends on the word invest in. Is that over a Nihilus? Because there's a lot of kind of characters, unless you're going to go 7-star with them. Like, you could use Ezra at 4-star, but they're not tanky characters. So they're not like the health pool or the protection of what Nihilus has got. So they do need that kind of like extra to them. It's the same as if you compare them to a Boba Fett. You wouldn't normally run a Boba Fett at 4-star in the arena, not at top tier anyway, because his health's going to be too low and you're relying on damage as well. That you're going to need to have them 7-star, but they're going to be farmable one day. I think Seb is quite good. He could definitely fit in different teams. He'd go great with a Zeta Barris. If you wanted to go for that kind of like unkillable squad, except for Nihilus will knock on your door and things will change, but can be used in different teams. I've seen that Ezra as well. I think he's a good attacking Jedi. Really rate Kanan very highly, and I don't rate Chopper at all. Hera's just there for the sole purpose of being the leader. So if she's not leader, then I wouldn't run her.
Speaking of Sabine, Roran is wondering if you think Sabine could fit on a solo Rancor team.
Probably be a bad idea, because she doesn't reduce turn meter. She's going to probably hit for 4 times and increase the turn meter on the Rancor. Potentially, you could be hitting for 3-4 times. Kind of like the 5s. If you are Mega 5s and he does that double tap, he starts increasing the turn meter of the Rancor. Sabine's going to do twice as much as that on some circumstances.
Well, there you go, Roran. Don't farm Sabine just yet for that. All right. The next question we have, kind of moving on to mods and Zeta a bit more. For lower level players, this is also Roran, by the way. Where would you recommend placing that first Zeta? So you finally got all the Zetas farmed, and you've got, a lot of people are going to be deciding between a Maul or a Kylo or maybe a Qui-Gon Jinn. What would you say if I'm just now getting there? My whole arena shard is just now getting there as well with me. We're all starting to see the Zeta. Where should I place that first?
Opinion on that right now, in this current kind of like time, I would say Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren can be moved from one squad to another. A Zeta Maul lead cannot. And I know a lot of people are going after that Zeta Maul. He's one of those characters that may help now, but he may not be viable in a month's time. So, I can imagine for a free-to-play side of things, especially when you get in those kind of like ships, characters, and you have to gear them as well. And it's extremely difficult. And the one thing you don't want to be doing is dropping in an arena rank, because that's pretty much what you're living on to play the game. The less income you get in, the slower your progression is going to be overall. Kylo Ren, because he can be the difference that you're going to win on the offense. When he's hitting and restoring his health for like 30, 40k, you cannot argue with a character like that. And that's just one character in your team. It doesn't limit you then to do what you need to do. You could even then go for the Rex lead. You could choose what you want. And Kylo Ren's kind of one of them characters that Episode 8 comes out this year. So he's going to have some synergy with either the Knights of Ren or even anything come, that time with new First Order characters. So I'd say he's the safest bet to do first.
Right on. Yeah, Kylo Ren, definitely. That Zeta ability can be pretty tough. And like you said before, he can literally go 1-on-5.
I would, that would be my advice. If this was the start of the Maul meta, then it would be Maul. But the one way that staying ahead of kind of the meta is having characters you can bring over to the new meta, and Kylo Ren is one of them. You can bring him over. Same with Nihilus as well. Nihilus is going to be one of those characters that you can move over to the next meta. That he's not a character, nor is Kylo Ren, that is reliant on a Zeta Maul. They can still go into other teams. Once you Zeta your Maul, you're locked to that Maul lead. So if a meta does change, anything changes in the game, you've got a character that's essentially useless to you now. If we look into detail on what Maul is, where does he fit in any raid in the game? He doesn't. If Vader wasn't good in the Rancor, he would still be the same. You'd be sitting on your bench. You wouldn't really be using him. It's only because he's got his uses at other places that he's still viable, where Maul isn't viable anywhere else. Yeah, you could use him in Galactic War, but you could use Kylo Ren in Galactic War. You could use Kylo Ren in the AAT. You could solo come in and out of the AAT and completely get rid of Phase 1. You could use him in Phase 2 Retreat. You could use him in Phase 3, and you could use him in Phase 4. That's what I do with my Kylo Ren. My Kylo Ren is the one character in the AAT that I use in all my phases, and I still have him till the end. Put him into another squad. Retreat, put him into another squad. And that's the one character, and that's where the profit, where you're going to be really being seeing the value, because the AAT's there. A Zeta Maul isn't really going to do anything in the AAT. Not like you used to, that they can't dodge. So once those turns are down and you get that enrage, that's it. Your Maul's dead. He's gone. Kylo Ren can escape from that, and he's just going to be resetting his cooldowns throughout the entire kind of like match. And you can use him anywhere in the game. He's a pilot as well. Maul's a pilot, but you don't need to have a Zeta on him to make him viable as a pilot. His ship is pretty much one of the best ships in the game, but you don't need to have a Zeta for that to work. You don't need a Zeta on Kylo either. But the kind of end of it is Kylo's universal. You're going to be able to use him in other areas, and that's what I would look at, especially when you're expanding. Don't lock yourself to one team if you don't have to.
Awesome, thank you. I think that's great advice. That makes me actually want to put a Zeta on my Kylo Ren, and I've already got 2, almost 3. So.
Sure, he's amazing. I've got a Zeta Savage, and I'd rather put Kylo Ren in than Savage.
Awesome.
All day long.
So Keen is wondering, when modding your tunes, a lot of us have this dilemma, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, between a critical damage stat or a critical chance stat, especially on that triangle mod that you throw up there. A lot of times you're going to be sacrificing that high critical chance stat to get the damage, or vice versa. Which would you lean towards? What do you think is more valuable?
If you are wanting to mod, say, Kylo Ren, a Vader, then you want to be having that triangle critical chance, because they don't need it, because they build their own kind of attack. Characters that you want to get more out, for example, I'd probably go with Anakin Skywalker, that I'd probably put the critical damage on him, just so he can do a little bit more damage. But there is no huge right and wrong between them, as long as you're at least getting 186% or 180. And that's what I do with a lot of my characters. Boba Fett's the same. I wouldn't go for a 216% on Boba Fett. I'd go for that critical chance triangle, and that's how I would normally determine, because his execute builds up its own damage. If I need to give a character a damage boost, then I'll go with the triangle and look for secondaries of critical chance. But a 30% critical chance on a character, or a 40%, you already want to be aiming for at least 50. And if that means that you're going to have to drop the critical damage triangle and put a critical chance triangle, I would do it all day long, because there's no point having your character souped up with critical damage to 216% if his critical chance is like 30%, because that means that you're only benefiting from it when it actually crits. So it's kind of like a pointless feat. You need to make sure that you're getting your kind of worth out of it, and you need to have at least 50%, 116 critical damage.
Right on. Awesome. Now, do you think that one of the metas that we've shifted away from is the Rebels, to a point? Obviously, Chase is not going to fall into that category, but I'm talking the Lando lead with the Wigs. Do you think that some of those classic Rebels, Stormtrooper Han, Wigs, Lando, for example, do you think any of them will ever get a Zeta ability? Do you think that could be maybe one of the next meta shifts, or do you think they're going to stay as is? And this is from Saxatoni, by the way.
I think it's possible. It may not be till next year. It could be whenever they decide to put a Zeta run on. But yeah, I believe if a Zeta is put onto some Rebel characters, it's probably going to make them either immune to critical immunity, because that's pretty much what stops them, like a Maul lead, General Kenobi. And that's probably what their huge weakness is at the moment, is when you've got that crit immunity on a character after you've tried to just do a triple hit, and then the rest of the hits just pretty much just hit for what they're basic is, you know, and it's not very high. But yeah, I would say that it's possible. I would guess we've got a lot of rebels, and we may see more rebels if they brought out Luke Skywalker or any reworks to current rebels with Zetas ever. But yeah, it's a safe bet. Just keep hold of them, you know, still gear them up if you've got them, because they are pilots at the end of the day. Your fleet, because again, he's another one that's probably one of the best ships in the fleet as well as Biggs.
All right, right on. Well, hey, SmithieD, thank you so much for tackling those questions. Now, those are all the questions that we scripted out and wanted to ask you for sure. Do you have some time right now that we could take some on the cuff questions for those ready, or do you need to get going?
No, that's cool.
All right. So the way we're going to do this, guys, I would like to hear questions on audio. And if you could all just, okay, we've got one me. So get in line and I'll go in order and just
go for it.
Indicate that you've got a question, and then I'll call on you and then take your mic off mute and address the man himself. So I'm not sure how to pronounce your screen name here. Deflamen. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hey man, thanks for having the time to talk to us.
Yeah. Hey man.
I was thinking about the new game mode, and you saying like some real time PvP. Personally, I don't think that's possible. I'm thinking more something more towards world boss. What's your thoughts on that?
I would say it would class as an event and not a game mode. So the kind of like devs, Mario and Jesse, they specifically said that it's a new game mode. It's not a raid. It's not an event. So I can only kind of speculate on it because I don't know what it is for sure. Guild v Guild, I would say, is down the lines of being a event, because you don't normally have a Guild v Guild running every single day continuously. And game modes, I would class guilds as being one game mode. That's a game mode. I would class the arena as another game mode. I would class Cantina, Lightside Battles, another game mode. Fleet, Galactic War, they're game modes. Imagine it's going to be something where you can use your entire roster, you could use your ships. They could build a game mode where it could potentially be just versus players in a guild and not be live. But I guess you got to think big on these things and really put the devs to work on it and put that out there. That's what we want. And that is something that I personally do want. Not everybody wants it. I don't know why. But me personally, I feel that, you know, it doesn't have to be reward based, you know, because that then makes you forced to play that game mode. And you don't want that feeling that everyone's forced to play it. But I would rather it be there as a fun aspect that you can play it when you want, then add events into it. So you could then put live tournaments in it or completely change it up. But it may not be. But I think for a game like this, that would be where I would like to see this game ending up, where it's got something that Force Arena has, because that's live PvP.
All right, man.
All right, next up, Farth. Go ahead. Farth is typing the fastest he's typed in his life right now. All right. Which character would you like to see get a Zeta ability next?
Well, that's a tough one. I don't know. We've got Kyler that's got a Zeta. Barris has got a Zeta. Oh, it's such a tough one. So many characters that are in need of Zetas, but I'd probably go with Kit Fisto. I'd like to see Kit Fisto have a Zeta.
Right on.
Okay,
I think.
For Mace.
Okay, Sire, were you next?
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, hi. SmithieD, first off, I'm a huge fan. I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel. I've watched you practically every day, along with like Mobile Gamer and Warrior from Team Instinct. So even though I don't play as hardcore as like my other clanmates do, I do thoroughly enjoy the game. Like I watch Princess Zodi leads. I watch your videos. They're all phenomenal. Just saying. So I'm a huge fan over here. So when I first when Cub said that we were having a Q&A with you, I was just like, sorry, I was fangirling like crazy. I was like, oh man, YouTuber. I was like, oh shit. So my question for you is, given I'm a free-to-play player, even though I dabble sometimes buying crystals, but roughly I have about 3,000 crystals, and I'm Yeah, I have 3,000 crystals, and I was. My question is it worth it to farm Death Trooper through the shard shop as well as through Cantina battles? Because I'm right now, I think my short trooper is like level 6 at the moment, and I want to get him to 7 stars. Is it that a good opportunity to take before they take him and Krennic off the shard shop?
So with Death Trooper, you can currently get him from the Cantina.
Mm-hmm.
I would get him from the Cantina. I wouldn't waste your shard shop currency, because if they're going to start adding characters to there, you may miss a golden opportunity to get your Nihilus to 7 star, and he could go onto a hard node. So I'd really save that for as an emergency to when you do see a character that's going to be unobtainable, kind of like base, where it's going to take you a year to finish him, especially on a free-to-play side. I wouldn't never farm somebody from there that you can get in another game mode with ease, even though it is on the highest kind of like tier of the Cantina and will take time, but that's what it is. It's a time element. But the difference between a month and a year is completely different. And I don't think Death Trooper's a massive difference. You could use him in raids. He still works in the arena at 4 star, but I wouldn't waste the currency that you currently got on something that's obtainable. And I would wait for maybe a character, like if they added Sith Assassin there and she was going into a hard node, then I'd probably say pick her up. You know, if you're running a Sith squad, and that's pretty much where you're going, but never go for a character you've got, or sorry, never go for a character that you can get, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, next question is coming in on text. Yoda Man would like to know, would Plo Koon with a Zeta potentially be a counter to Zeta Maul? And the logic behind it is because Plo Koon has that leader ability that has a stealth removal chance.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. To that, dependent is with the removal. The problem that you've got is kind of Zeta does, and it's going to remove the kind of like stealth, or if it's at 100%. Plo Koon is very kind of like hurt when it comes to Maul. Maul's just going to tear him to pieces as the character. So you've got a kind of thing where it won't be a counter, even though it's getting rid of it, because B2 can do the same job. He can get rid of it, and he can put buff immunity and dodge down on these characters, like evasion down, and put those kind of debuffs on it. But removing the stealth element is that they're going to go into stealth, and if it's at the start of every turn, he wouldn't be the meta changing, but it would be what you build around that team would be the meta changing. So that is kind of counter one meta, but then you'll see a rise of probably characters that are non-Maul. And you're probably then going to see like more rebels running around, more Vaders, and then you're back to diversity again. And then Maul won't really exist in the arena case, but I don't think it would do massive kind of things to it, because it still doesn't stop the evasion. You have to stop the evasion, because that's the biggest problem. It's not the stealth. That's in my theory anyway.
All right. Who's next in line? Is Cassian going to be available? Or viable? Okay, I was going to say he's available right now. Okay.
Yeah,
I think Cassian will be viable.
That needs to have the team around him. He works because he's got K2SO there, and you've got the gen lead. Outside of that, there will be other teams that he can go into, but he's probably not going to be as effective as another character that's got that synergy with that actual team. It's still early to say. Cassian, I'd still farm him because he's from the arena, unless you've got other things to farm from there. But it could be a long time until he's viable. Maybe if the rebels get Zeta'd, as it goes back to kind of like Biggs and Wedge. But I'd still farm him because it's an easy farmable area, and then gear him slowly.
Yeah, and I'd agree. I'm from a free-to-play standpoint, I pretty much have everyone in that arena shop, and I almost have Cassian to 7 stars without even thinking about it. So, at least worth the farm. Now, Roran, you're next. Can you jump on audio and ask your question, buddy?
Yep. My question is, so I always hear a lot about in ships, you want to spend your currency at the beginning when you're working up to Zeta Challenge, you want to spend your currency only on ships so that you can get that on farm. My question is, once you have it 3-starred and you have it on farm, where would you place the importance of ships, and where is the sweet spot that you want to stick around in ships while spending your currency on characters or on Zeta materials themselves?
In my opinion. Yeah, so what I did first off, I did my ships first. Everything went into my ships. because it needs to, because there's some ships that you can only get from that area that you're going to need to unlock that Zeta challenge. I normally get probably about 4 to 5 Zetas a week. Good times I can get 7 to 8, and that's per week from the challenges. So I would then Zeta a few, maybe get about 80 Zetas from there. And then currently now, because the arena is getting more competitive, I've had to then switch and start getting more starships to make sure they're 7-star, because it's giving me more currency at the end of the day. More currency, better ships, and if any event comes out, I'm then ready for any event, any new content, instead of just going now, leaving my ships at 5-star, because you're going to start dropping. So you have to find that balance of first looking after one side of the arena so you get your crystals, now looking on the other side of the arena so you're maintaining your leadership there, because there's no point doing all this work, getting all these ships to get into top 10 and then letting yourself drop because you want just lots of Zetas, because there's going to be a certain point where they could be farmable elsewhere, so they may not always be in there, but for now it is the only place. So if they do come like Omegas and come a daily thing, you're then playing a kind of like catch up in the arena, and it could be a very long time until you become top 10 again. So you have to find that balance, and if you feel that you are slipping on one side, you need to start investing in some ships, or even just going after the slave one, the scimitars, getting your TIE fighters to 7-star, and then finding that balance where you're comfortable on one side that you now can take that time to start investing back into your ships.
All right. Ira wants to know what ships you're using in the arena right now. What are your favorite ships?
Tarkin lead. I use Biggs. I use TIE Fighter Pilot, First Order TIE Fighter Pilot, and Vader's TIE Advanced. And then on the bench, I have the Scimitar, followed by Sumfac, which I need to replace, and then followed by JC. Need to be placed. I'm kind of waiting for the Falcon to be farmable, so I could just kind of get rid of Sumfac, put the Falcon in, and then maybe another kind of like ship to go at the end. I normally use my ships, and I use the basics. So if you are using Biggs and you're using TIE fighters, always open using their basics. Never open using their specials, because you want to be going for that target lock straight away, and you don't need to kind of use the specials at all while Biggs is alive, because you want to be regaining his protection, and he will only regain it every time you put a target lock. And you can put target locks on characters even if they've already got it, and it will heal Biggs. And the only way you're going to do that with those TIE fighters is using the basics. I would only use the special if Biggs is in good health and I see it as a killable kill, that, okay, I can kill this ship if I use this special. If not, I'll use basics all day on those ships.
Speaking of ships, Farth wants to know how you feel about those Phoenix Squad ships that just came out.
Yeah, I've got a guy in the arena, actually, Mad Malgus, that actually has them, and the Ghost can crit for like 45k on an AoE. It's deadly to watch, but it's in the team. That's the only issue. That they're great. They're 2 great ships, to be honest. You know, even on defense, but it's what you've got really around them that's the issue. Those sort of ships, because they are powerful, but it kind of like lacks it in comparison to kind of like a Biggs ship. It's definitely kind of like beatable. I fight them all the time in my arena, and I've never had any issues. But I do have 7-star ships. If I didn't have 7-star ships, then I would definitely struggle, because at the start, after a couple of like turns, the Ghost crits for like 45k, nearly kills my ships. So it can either go one way or the other at that point. But it's definitely, I kind of like abuse the kind of like Biggs tactic where I just use basic attacks to keep his protection regain, and that's how I win a lot of my matches in the arena.
Awesome. All right. Do we have any last questions? I think we're about wrapped up, but maybe we can take 1 or 2 more. I've got Farth feverishly typing again. Okay, what about Krennic and Death Trooper as viable in arena? And then also, we'll handle that one first, and then we got one for Mannequin Solo, and then I think we'll call it good.
Yeah. So Death Trooper in the arena. Maybe one day. The issue you've got with him is enough kind of like Empire characters that fits his build to make him viable. And for him to be viable, he has to have Death Trooper. If you run him without Death Trooper, then he's not viable at all. So I would, if you are going to run him, you have to have Death Trooper with him, or don't run him at all, in my opinion.
All right, and then Anakin Solo is wondering about Ayla and Barriss for a potential Jedi meta. I'm not sure what he means by potential Jedi meta, but I guess just a little discussion on those tunes.
Like a Jedi and Ayla, like if they got a Zeta.
That's what I would guess. That's what I would guess.
It could happen. It just depends what characters they bring out to support him and what Zetas they give him. I would imagine that Anakin would have a increased damage on his AoE because that's where he's got the kind of like place to give him the Zeta. But the issue that you've got with that into the crit immunity, so he needs something that's going to stop him, that he can just kind of like punch through crits, or he's going to have a Qui-Gon Jinn lead. And days as well from Maul. So there has to be some aspect or element put into it that's going to make it viable. I think the day would come, but again, you'd have to have no Zeta Maul running around in the arena, and you'd have to have something that counters that from a Zeta Maul, because days just completely ruins both Ayla and Anakin.
All right. Well, hey, SmithieD, you are the man. Thank you so much for coming on here and talking to us again. I think, like you heard, we're all pretty big fans of what you do. I love your videos, and if all of you listening, if you haven't checked out SmithieD's videos yet, you're not doing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes right. You need to check it out. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Check out the videos, comment, and SmithieD, again, thank you very much. Would you come back and be our friend again in a few months?
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, man, of course.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. I'll shoot you a message sometime, see if we can't do this again when we've got that meta shift to Jedi.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Oh, buddy, thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a good one.